What's going on, boys? No guys here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to explore the 3-5-2 and the 5-3-2, the key differences and why I prefer the 3-5-2 over what the mass community is using is the 5-3-2. I just want to firstly say though, if you do watch me stream, I normally play the 3-5-2, and by the way I do stream on twitch.tv/guys, link is down below in the description. But everyone always asks me, why do I still use the 3-5-2 and why do I think it's superior over the 5-3-2? There's numerous reasons. My job is to basically make formations and tactics, and it's then your job to try them out and see which one you prefer. I'll be honest, this is seeming to be the most meta setup now, and a lot of you guys are of course trying to use the meta, which I completely understand, if you want to coin that term meta considering everything that's going on in the community. But the 3-5-2, the reason why I prefer it is three reasons. One, it's the way that I play, and depending on how you play, you might want to change to the 3-5-2. Two, I think it's a defensive stability, and that's to do with the CDMs, which I'll get onto that as well. And three, it's the way you attack and defend a bit differently. And the 3-5-2, you can argue, has a different position than the 5-3-2 because you have the extra cam. So we're going to start on the opposite end. So let's go for the attack first. So when you're attacking the 3-5-2, I mean, you're going to see a video this Friday on the 5-2-1-2. That comparison is a bit more acutely similar because you're playing the 5-2-1-2. You can argue it's the exact same formation. Where is it? If I can find it, that is. And the 5-2-1-2, as you can see, 2 centre mids, a cam, and 2 strikers. But in a 3-5-2, you do have 2 CDMs, and that's the biggest difference. So the first thing is that cam is the most important player for me. I normally play with all 3, or if I do try to play this properly, I play all my 3 cams on strikers and stay forward. Do not do that. Only do that if you're like an elite player. Plus, obviously, I know how to defend with just 2 guys in midfield, so for me it's fine. So when you're playing a 3-5-2, for me personally, that middle cam is the biggest link up play that you need. The issue that I find with the 5-3-2 is it's more I suppose you can say defensively stable, right? But the issue is when you're attacking, you don't have that cam player. Now some players put, for example, the central centre mid on stay forward or get forward, but if you lose the ball there, then there's a massive gap in behind. These 2 players don't fill that central role as well as you think. So that's why it's a bit of a sticky one. You know, you lose the cam and then a centre mid has to come forward from deep. So if you play a bit more of a slow progressive system, the 5-3-2 may be for you. But because I like just, you know, passing the ball, and then for example, you can put the 2 strikers and the cam, all 3 of them on stay forward. So when you get the ball back to your CDM, you can smack the ball driven pass straight to your strikers. That is why I prefer the 3-5-2 again. With the 5-3-2, there's only 2 strikers, and of course you don't have that cam on stay forward. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the way these left mids and right mids, the way they act. When you're playing very attacking, let's say if you're playing, I don't know, a 3-5-2, I play my own style of FIFA. Now, some of you guys won't really understand, but it's very archaic. There's 4 things I don't do. I never cross the ball ever. Even if there's a sweat available, I never cross the ball. I never score any headers. I always score only good goals, so that's me shooting from good angles, not shooting away from goal. I don't abuse mechanics, or I don't shoot outside the box. Now, am I saying you should play that way? No, that's absolutely insane. You shouldn't play that way, but it's the way I've been playing for many, many years. And this is why I advocate healthy, positive football, no parking the bus, no mechanic abusing. I do not use the wingers as opposed to the 5-3-2. So I like these to be more centralized. That's why in the 5-3-2 they're like left mids and right mids. So they're more centrally closer to the rest of the team. And that is why I like them, because they're not too far away. The only issue is with the 5-3-2. Now for you guys, it might be completely perfect, because as I mentioned to you, when these guys ignored, for example, which player is where, by the way, I just changed it for a second. But let's say when the left back and right backs, when they go forward, they're basically unmarked. So basically your opponent's back four is like this, somewhat like this, and these guys unmarked. That's fine and dandy if you pass the ball to your winger and then you try to dribble the ball inside, or you try to do a skill move and a lofted pass, whatever you try doing from a wing position, or you cross the ball. That's perfect, and the 5-3-2 is for you. But because I don't cross the ball, I find that when these guys go forward in their own lane, they're very wide, and that gives them an exit strategy. Maybe if I was wasting time, that would be a good thing to do. But for my playstyle, they're just too far away from the play. So I don't use the left wing back and the right wing back as I want to, because I don't really cross the ball. I might use the ball and I might pass them as an outlet, but I always bring it back into the center anyway. So I said to myself, what's the point of using the 5-3-2? And by the way, the 5-3-2, by the way, it's always been meta. I know Duller Mike started using it, but when I released this formation 3 years ago in FIFA 19, when the overload and fast build-up play and stay wide. If you watch my videos back then, it was the meta then as well, and it still is and always will be until they patch it, until they patch the 5 defenders going in their own line. But that's why another thing. So if you play more centrally and you know, for example, you don't use your wingers that much for building up, okay, fine, that's fine. You know, you can build up slow, progressively, or fast. That's not important. But when you're outside the box, and let's say your opponent is digging in and you're outside the box. So let me maybe try to depict this with this screen over here. So let's say, for example, in this situation, just imagine you're outside the box. If you're playing the 5-3-2, this is basically how it basically is. You normally have one center mid, and if you have left center mid, something like that if you're attacking. Whereas in a 3-5-2, it's the 2 strikers here, the cam here, left mid here, right mid here, and 2 CDMs. So because these left mid and right mids are more integrated into the play, it's easy for me to do a 1-2, pass the ball to them, and distribute the ball around. So that is why I prefer the natural layer of the 3-5-2 over the 5-3-2. That's one thing to bear in mind as well. So it's the cam, it's the left mids. Now that is the attacking phase. Again, if you prefer to cross the ball, I would say try both. Now, I actually have both of them set up because there's sometimes in the game where my opponent is playing overload the ball side. He's very narrow, and that's why you might see my weekly tactics set up. I deliberately create 2 systems. So I have a system for you, for example, if you want to use both 3-5-2s like I do, that's fine. But if you want, you can change between a 3-5-2 and the 5-3-2, so you can go either wide or you can go narrow. I have tried to experiment with, for example, you know, putting these guys on stay wide and changing this up, but it doesn't achieve the best system. So that's one thing that I'd say. In terms of defensively, this is the big thing. When I stream, I'm not really paying attention. It's kind of hard to explain if you don't watch my streams, but I don't look at the game. It's gonna sound mad, but I don't actually pay attention to what I'm doing. I can't let just like my autopilot just play the game. So I don't know what I'm doing. But a lot of the time when I make a mistake defensively, because that's when I'm reading the chat answering questions, you're obviously going to make mistakes when you're not concentrating. The 2 CDMs are positioned more defensively, and this is the thing. In the 5-3-2, there's no CDMs. There's 3 center mids. So you can argue there's more center mids in theory, so it's better for you to defend, but they're not CDMs. So if your opponent has strikers, normally the strikers get it behind. That's the first thing. The 3-5-2 in comparison, because they're CDMs, and don't forget the way I've set this up is this 3-5-2 is I have the striker and come back in defense, so it makes a midfield 3 anyway. They just sit a bit deeper and they protect the back 3, so that's why I think for defensive stability it's a better formation. But above all, the most important thing is with these formations you can do something called cut passing lanes. Now this is only an instruction that you can only do to a CDM. You might have realized there's no drop between defenders. That's another instruction that you can do. But for all formations that have 3 defenders or 5 defender variations, there's no drop in between the defenders. I think they did that to avoid people from parking a bus. And that's why it only really appears like in 4 defender formations, for example, like the 4-2-3-1, you do have drop between defenders over here. But otherwise you don't have it. So in a 3-5-2, you don't have it, and neither do you have it in a 5-3-2. So yeah, so there's no drop between defenders, so on this side, sorry, should I say. But this cut passing lanes, you can't do this defensive behavior. This thing means that when your opponent has the ball and he goes forward, you can't set this up. So if we go and I show you this in contrast with the 5-3-2, if we put these together, you can see that that there's only stay back or attack, and that's fine. But there is no there's no defensive option. Do you see that? There's only defensive position, which is the same as the 3-5-2. But there isn't that system where you can actually decide, you know, for example, defensive behavior. Now, cut passing lanes is really important because when your opponent gets the ball, your AI play position himself. So let's say your opponent's strikers over here and over here. These guys will be, if your opponent has the ball over here, these guys will basically position himself basically to cut the passing lanes naturally, and they'll be in a better position. So when you switch them, it's more better for you to defend because they're placed better, and that way it's easier for you because not only are they deeper, you can get the ball back easier, but also easier for you to defend. Because normally I find myself with a 5-3-2. Now, even if, I think I mentioned this in one of my videos, in the 5-3-2, if you have all these guys on stay back while attacking, so I mentioned if you want to close out the game, this is also a system for you. Again, the 3-5-2 is the exact same way because don't forget, one of the strikers does come back on defense. The issue is you don't have that cut passing lane. So what your opponent can do, or a very good opponent can do, is he can basically play in between the lines of your midfield 3 and your back 5. And you have to manually switch to these players and then run back with them. Now that's fine and dandy, I can do that. But if you're watching this video and you know you're not that good at defending, you might say, you know what, maybe it's worth me using the 3-5-2, putting these guys as CDMs because they're number one, position deeper, but number two, it makes it easier for you to defend. So it's kind of like a two-edged thing. I don't want to go too much, there's already 10 minutes in, but I don't want to go too much about it. So that's what I'd say to you. The choice is of two things. Number one is that if you are playing, I would say, a very wide style, you like to use the wing play, not for build up in the final third, then I would say maybe the 5-3-2 is a good option. If you prefer to be a bit more centralized and you want that cam player, ignoring the 5-2-1-2 for a second, but you want that cam player, so therefore in my opinion the 3-5-2 is more attacking because you have the advanced cam there, then I say use the 3-5-2. Defensively, you have those two CDMs, whereas, and you have one of the strikers. If you have put one of the strikers on come back in defense, you still make that midfield three. So you can argue it's still the 5-3-2 system, except for there's more stability defensively, and attacking you're a bit more narrow, a bit more centralized, and you have that cam to play. We'll get on to the 5-2-1-2 when I go over that video on Friday, but that's the reasons why. Now there is other benefits to use the 5-3-2, for example, the fact these are natural centre mids, so they position a bit better. The fact that these are left backs and right backs, so they defend a bit more acutely. The question I get asked is, for both the formations, do you have to play fullbacks here? When I play these formations, if I'm playing a 5-3-2, I'd put someone like De Lufeu there. It's not the end of the world. So normally I play Renato Sanchez. If I can change these players correctly, I'd only play Renato Sanchez, and then I'll play, for example, Cuadrado, and then I'll play wingers. So I normally play wingers in these roles. You don't need to play fullback. This is the biggest misconception. Just because it's a 5-3-2 doesn't mean you need to play, because when these guys, when they come back, most of the time they're going to be on the side areas. They're not going to be really man mark in the middle. And therefore defensive awareness is not that important as it is compared to these three centre backs. These guys normally defend your opponent's winger running inside, and even then, it's all about manual positioning. This is why I always say positioning is the most important thing. You know, when I said fullback to centre back was the most important thing in the game, and positioning was the most important, I really meant it. And that is why football, I think people are starting to realise now why fullbacks are so good. But if you've been watching me, you would have known that already. But more importantly, because people are not realising, they're inadvertently realising that when they're positioning themselves better with good agility and balance, good sprint speed, they can recover quickly, and therefore in total defend better. So that's why I just go with attacking players, because when they go forward they can attack better. The problem is with the 5-3-2, if these guys are going forward, you don't want a fullback all the way on the end over there, because they haven't got skill moves, they haven't got the best of passing. You want someone that's got good agility and balance. I would say go for wingers. That Kulusevski card has got really good stand tackling, and someone that can play perfectly in that position. I would say ideally try to go for a high work rate. That's ideally what you want. If you can't get it, it's not the end of the world, because when you put them on during the attack, conservative and overlap, when you lose the ball, they still come back anyway. So the defensive awareness is not that important, because instruction still overrides the command. Yes, it does help, but it's not important. I normally go for high medium attackers here. That's the way that I do it. But you can argue the better the defensive work rate, the quicker they'll be to recover. So if this person's got high defensive work rates, the quicker they will recover. And this is something that's changed this year with attack positioning. Has become more apparent. Is why you might have seen that a CDM with, for example, medium high like Kante, they're positioned much better defensively as opposed to someone who's high or medium. I would say the most important thing here is pace and stamina. I would say ideally go for 85 sprint speed and above. If someone's got 85 sprint speed, I'd say put a shadow on him. If you get him on 7 chemistry, that way you can at least get to at least 91, 92 pace, because you want to get the pace to go back and forward. That's the most important thing. The stamina, if you can get 84 and above, that's ideal. You can always sub them off later. Normally when I'm winning, let's say, or I'm losing, the first people that I sub off in these systems are like the wing players, because they're obviously going up and down the entire time. They're the ones that are losing stamina, and no one's going to replace Neymar, Ronaldo and Eto'o. I packed Eto'o on tradable, as I'd rather use Nedved here, to be honest, personally speaking. But let's say Ronaldo on red stamina is still going to be better than anyone else that I bring on. So I'm not going to sub these guys off. This triangle, this danger area will stay there. But I'll sub off these guys, because these guys are going back and forward the entire game. So that's what I'll say is prioritize here. Pace, I would say get wingers in both the 5-3-2 and the 3-5-2. Get pacey players here, wingers. And I would say the most important thing is try to get good sprint speed, good stamina, and good agility and balance. Something that's a bit overlooked as well. If you can get good short passing, of course, go ahead and do that. but that is what I'd recommend. For the rest of these guys, if you can, ideally try to get a right footer here and a left footer here. That way when you put the driven through balls down the wing like you do in a 4-2-3-1, you're using the stronger foot with the right centre back. Again, it's the exact same thing, and with the 5-3-2, do the exact same thing over there. I'd recommend 3 centre backs. The slowest centre back should go middle. So if you've done a Boateng SBC, let's say you really want to play him, play Boateng in the middle, because when you lose the ball and let's say these guys are far ahead, these guys cannot act as temporary left backs and right backs, so you need them to have pace so they can recover. So the slowest guy can go in the middle, but make sure these guys, I would say, have got 85 sprint speed. Now you might think it's a bit unusual, but if you listen to me in the beginning, as I mentioned, you remember I said to you back before, I think, was it patch number 2, and people are going to park the bus a lot more, counter-attack's going to be a big thing. Obviously you might have seen the through ball thing as well, that's become more apparent. So through balls are a big thing. If someone plays a through ball in behind, you are completely done with someone that is slow. So that's why it's very, very important that you have somewhat of a fast player in that position. In terms of the going forward, as I said, you can have one player. As I said, I recommend either the wingers to go forward as opposed to the centre mid guy. I've seen a lot of pros do that, but in my opinion, just use the 5-2-1-2, because a lot of players, like for example, you're watching this video, if this guy's out of position, let's say, and you lose the ball, you're gonna have a hole in the middle. If he has 2 strikers on stay forward, it's a direct line from his CDM or his centre backs to his strikers. So you got to bear that in mind. So for the pro players, it's fine because they recover, they know what they're doing, they know how to defend. If you're sitting here and you know, for example, even as an Elite 3 player, you know that counterattacks are a big thing, so strongly suggest you leave a central guy on stay back while attacking. For the 3-5-2, the way that I normally play is I'll put stay forward on all these guys, and then what I'll do is if I want to be more attacking, I normally put get forward on the CDM. You don't have to use hug the sidelines. I think it really makes the formation better. Sometimes I don't do it. It's not because I want to play narrow, just that I forget to do it. Even though I want to play wider, sometimes I still use hug the sidelines because they just, you know, you have the 4-1-2-1-2 base over here, and these guys are so far apart and it spreads your opponent so easily. I just forget. So if you ever see me on stream like, hey Neil, why are you not using hug the sidelines? I can assure you it's because I forgot to do it. So if you ever see me not using hug the sidelines, please do remind me in the chat. You can if you want go over like cut inside, but I tried it before. You might have seen like one of the original times I did do it, and I found that it was kind of pointless. It didn't really help the situation. It came inside and it didn't do anything. Last video I explained how the 4-3-2-1 with the 2 strikers, for example, all the 2 strikers, or sorry, 3 strikers should I say, on stay central and stay forward, getting behind as a way to counter the system. It's kind of the similar thing. That's the wrong formation. I'm talking about the 4-3-2-1, sorry. And having both of these guys enjoying the attack, so that way you create a 3v3 at the back, and that way when you get the ball, De La Feu still sits and these guys go forward. Don't forget, these guys' instructions are get forward, not stay back while attacking. That's one thing as well. With the 3-5-2, there's one thing that I realized as well is the left mid and right mid, they're just positioned a bit more higher compared to the 5-3-2. Normally when you win the ball back with the 5-3-2, you have to wait for these guys to go forward. Now, that's fine if you're like a medium paced or fast paced player, but I'm like a blitz player. I like to go from A to B as soon as I can, driven past, cut my position quickly. You can, if you want to, tone this down. I've mentioned this as well. You can put long ball. So if you do find that these guys are bombing forward too quickly, you can put this on long ball. On Friday, I'm going to have a video saying how you can use stay back while attacking and move them forward manually in the game when you want to. So I'll have that coming out on Friday. So that way you have more control of the formation. Likewise with the 3-5-2, I wouldn't recommend, personally speaking, fast build up play, because I think when you have the ball, these guys, they just fly forward too quickly and you're left very isolated with your back 3. So with a 3-5, people ask me, can I use fast build up play? You can, but the problem is they go forward just too quickly, because with the left back and right back, they're further back, and then when they come forward, they start from further deep, then they go forwards. The left mid and right mids, they're already high up the pitch, and it's just easier for them to go forward. But that is right. That is why I use the 3-5-2 over the 5-3-2. So yes, they're both fantastic formations. I'd probably say the 5-3-2 is the most broken formation to exploit your defenses, and the reason why people are using 3 and 5 defender variations, because it's just fun to play. It's always been fun to play because you have so many attackers going forward, and people keep thinking you're playing with 5 defenders, you're parking the bus. No, you're not. You're actually going forward. But of course, people are not that, probably you can say, not that understanding of the game, don't really know that. But that's why the 3 and 5 defender formations become so prevalent now, and why everyone's using it. And let's be honest, the 4-2-3-1 is still a very good formation, but people are just getting sick and tired of it. I know for me, I still use it to close the game out because it's safer to use this formation to close the game out. But personally, I just find sick and tired of playing this formation. I've been playing it for, like, I would say, I don't know, a good 7 years at a good level. I know it like at the back of my hand. I just want to try something else out. And yes, I do leak a bit more goals in the 3-5-2, but it is definitely more fun to play. But that is kind of the video. Just kind of my opinions on why I prefer the 3-5-2 over the 3-5-3-2. Whichever one you use is completely up to you. There's no right or wrong answer. But I would say, personally speaking, these are the 2 meta formations per se. Just because of sheer numbers going forward and coming backwards makes it so stable, and of course the wing play. But as I mentioned, because I don't cross the ball, the 3-5-2 is kind of my place. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget, all my social medias are here. All my social media are basically /nilguides. Don't forget, I do stream on twitch.tv/nilguides. Link will be down below in the description as well. And I think, did I record this correctly? I did. So thankfully, fingers crossed. All my social media will be linked down below in the description. But thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.